If there's one thing pitmasters swear by, it's their smoking wood. It's what sets barbecue apart and gives succulent meat that mouth-watering, smoky essence. Now, there are thousands of types of trees to choose from, and it's believed that different varieties offer unique flavors, but I'm skeptical that you can actually taste the difference. Today, we take a deep dive into several types of smoking woods to see if there's actually a difference in flavor between them and find out if my beloved applewood truly reigns supreme. First and foremost, let's talk about fuel, smoke, and what exactly is smoking wood. This right here is a dried piece of applewood, also known as being seasoned, and it is perfectly ready to be smoked. It is very different than fresh or what's called green wood that is still filled with moisture. To get to this point, it's been dried down to about 15 or 20% moisture content, and the smoke emitted from here is what provides the flavor. Now, there is a process to take this wood right here and convert it into charcoal. The wood is heated in an oxygen-starved environment to 750 degrees Fahrenheit, a process called pyrolysis. Charcoal specifically is less about providing flavor and is more so used as the fuel or heat source. And you'll often see charcoal come in this format here, which is called a briquette. It's a bit more processed and doesn't provide as much of a clean flavor as something like hardwood lump, this stuff right here, but in some situations it is nice because it does burn very consistently. Right here we have fully lit charcoal in fuel form. Notice how they're virtually all white, which is a sign that they're fully lit and that there's essentially no smoke coming off of it. This is what keeps the grill hot and in turn ignites the smoking wood. But when it comes to barbecue, we're looking to add that incredible smoky flavor. That's where the wood comes in. But the question we want to find the answer to, does the type of wood we use actually make a difference when it comes to flavor? As that wood lights and eventually catches on fire, it releases incredibly flavorful smoke that adheres to and penetrates the meat, leading to that distinctive barbecue flavor. The three types of woods we'll be comparing are applewood, hickory, and mesquite. And the wood we have in front of us is ranked from the least intense smoke flavor all the way up to the most intense smoke flavor. At least that's the common belief. Apple trees are grown literally all over the world, and the smoke emitted from this wood is known for being light, mild, and sweet, commonly paired with things like pork and poultry. And you guys already know that this is by far my favorite. We're smoking over applewood, low and slow. Smoking over applewood, low and slow. Low and slow. Low and slow. Next up, we have hickory, and these trees are commonly found on the eastern side of the US. This wood is known for being extremely versatile, with a smoke intensity somewhere around the middle. And lastly, we have mesquite. Notice how the color is a lot darker, and this one is known for being extremely smoky in flavor. That's why it's often suggested to use in shorter cooks. Due to their range from mild to heavy smoke flavor, these are the perfect woods to use in our comparison as we cook three different proteins. Now, the first protein that we'll be comparing is the one and only pork butt. It's a cut that's perfect for this experiment because it takes, 5 to 8 hours of cooking, so it's gonna absorb tons of that smoke flavor. And I wanna keep the seasonings extremely simple so we can really taste those differences in the smoke flavor. So I'm just adding a bunch of salt. And of course, black pepper. Now, to keep things consistent, I'm using precisely the same amount of charcoal. We want the heat exactly the same. And I am using briquettes over lump charcoal simply because they burn at a more consistent rate. And we'll start the process by smoking with exactly 10 ounces of each type of wood. And to keep everything consistent, I of course bought 3 identical grills. We're really getting the whole squad lit up today. You'll notice that this is a pretty small amount of coals, but through the cooking process, I'll be adding the exact same amount on top to maintain a heat of roughly 225 to 250 Fahrenheit, AKA low and slow, baby. Applewood, hickory, and mesquite. So one thing I've noticed right off the top, the applewood seems to be lighting significantly easier than the hickory and specifically the mesquite. And I'm not gonna lie, there's a huge difference in smell between the mesquite and the apple. So we'll see if it comes through in the final flavor. On with the applewood, the hickory, and the mesquite. It's time for a little side quest. With all this food comparison going on today, there's something I've always been skeptical of. Do bay leaves actually make a difference when it comes to flavor, or are they a complete scam? Which brings me to the sponsor of today's video, Made In. They have the best kitchenware in the game. Professional quality products for the home cook, and their products are even used at 3 Michelin star restaurants. They're made by artisans who specially curate the shape and materials so that each product is engineered to perfection. We'll whip out our stainless pan from Made In, and start the sauce. Maiden's premium 5-ply stainless steel material sets it apart from other pans and allows for superior heat retention and heat control. Now we'll add a bunch of bay leaves to one and let it simmer. Can't have spaghetti without meatballs. We're gonna sear these right up. The curvature of the walls is perfectly calculated for deeper searing and easier flipping. These stainless clad pans can go from the stovetop to the oven with ease and heat up to 800 degrees. Sauce over the top. That rolled rim allows us to easily pour without making a mess. Number 1. That is excellent spaghetti, and the sear on those meatballs is perfection. Number 2. Whoa! Turns out my theory about bay leaves is absolutely not correct. You can definitely taste the difference. But one thing I know for sure is those pans are incredible. Use the link in the description to try these Maiden products and save. And for protein number 2, we have one of my all-time favorites, smoked salmon. Due to the delicate nature of fish, it's typically paired with mild woods like apple or sometimes alder. But of course, for our comparison, we're using that apple, hickory, and mesquite. Once again, that very simple seasoning of salt, and that black pepper. Applewood, hickory, and mesquite. Now, if you thought we forgot about the liquid smoke, you must be crazy. We have the applewood, hickory, and that mesquite. Where is that mesquite?
Is this gonna be enough?
Now, this might be a surprise to many, but liquid smoke is actually an all-natural product. It's essentially just smoke vapor that's been condensed. And for a secondary salmon taste test, we'll be comparing each of these flavors. Now, this stuff is extremely potent, so you really don't need much, though I am using a full tablespoon,
Which is for sure more than necessary.
but I really want to try to see if there's a difference. Next, that hickory. Oh, interesting. This is significantly darker in color than the applewood, and our extremely conveniently sized jug of mesquite. In theory, this one should be the strongest, though I will say they all smell pretty much the same. We will let these marinate for about 1 hour, then we'll bake them, at which point it'll be time to eat.
1 hour later.
And just like that, it's time. In the front, we have our traditionally smoked. In the back, we have that liquid smoke. You already know this is for sure a taste tester tie situation. It is time to find out if me, Max the Meat Guy, can tell the difference between applewood and the rest of them. I wish I could tell you I was feeling confident right now. And we're starting with the regular smoked salmon. Number 1. I mean, that salmon is delicious, first of all. Definitely getting a strong smoke flavor. It doesn't feel excessively strong. For now, I'm calling that hickory. Number 2. Whoa, completely different. I know they're different. It's just so hard to tell what's different about it. I want to say that's mesquite. Number 3. Smooth. That right there is the perfect piece of smoked salmon. I don't know about the first two, but if that one is not applewood smoked salmon, then I am no longer Max the Meat Guy. Is that applewood? Let's go! Did I get them all right?
Yeah. Yeah, you did.
100%.
I think I pulled my neck. I'm not gonna lie, guys. The applewood is just king. Let's do some liquid smoke. Liquid smoke, number 1. Way less strong of a flavor than the real smoked one, which makes sense. Just a subtle smokiness, not bad. For now, I'll guess that one is applewood. Number 2. I tasted actually pretty much zero smoke there. I'm actually gonna guess that that one's the applewood and the first was hickory. Number 3. Those were all very similar. Sort of a guess here, but I think the first was mesquite, second was the applewood, third was the hickory. Oh.
I think you got them all wrong.
I got them all wrong. So the takeaway is that perhaps with liquid smoke, it doesn't matter as much, but this is even a shock to me. Traditional smoking, it makes a huge difference, at least with salmon. Let's move on to the next protein. And for our last protein, you already know it had to be steak. This right here is an epic Australian Wagyu marbling score 8 to 9 rib roast. Probably my favorite cut and grade in the entire world. I mean, just check out that marbling. There's an insane amount, but unlike Wagyu A5, to me, this is perfect. And we'll slice into 3 identical steaks. I mean, if this isn't the perfect ribeye, I don't know what is. And we'll heavily season with kosher salt and that black pepper. Let's get it on the grill. Steak onto our applewood grill, the hickory, and of course, mesquite. This is the type of smoke we're looking for. It's almost non-existent and called blue smoke. What you absolutely don't want is thick, heavy, billowing smoke. That is what leads to sooty flavor. All of our steaks have come to temp, and it's time to sear. As you can see, there's very little crust development yet, but you can definitely tell they've picked up a lot of smoke flavor. Whew. That got a little intense out there, but I can't lie to you guys, these might be the perfect steak. I mean, just look at this thing. We'll slice into that applewood, that nice medium rare cap. This to me is the perfect bite. Let's see how we did on that hickory. Oh. I wanna hear from you guys. Is this right here the perfect internal temp? Is it overcooked, undercooked? Let me know in the comments. The mesquite, that is perfection. You know, I've cooked and sliced probably thousands of steaks at this point, but it just doesn't get old. And it is time for steak. Number 1. There is so much going on with that steak flavor-wise. The smoke feels a lot more subtle than the salmon. I'm leaning towards hickory or applewood, but I gotta compare. Number 2. The smoke flavor was so much more noticeable on the salmon for some reason, but I wanna say that's applewood and the first was hickory. Number 3. I believe it was hickory, applewood, mesquite.
3 out of 3.
Which one do I honestly prefer? Now, I would love to say that the applewood was definitely better, but I do like a bit more smokiness when it comes to beef. Perhaps the hickory slightly came out on top. To me, however, the mesquite was too smoky and not for me. It is time for the holy grail. Our beautiful pork butts are done. And I know I said earlier that slicing steak is essentially the world's greatest activity. The only thing that beats it is this right here. Oh yeah, just completely falls apart. Clean bone, so you know it was cooked perfectly. That beautiful, flavorful bark and a really nice smoke ring. And the applewood. I mean, it is just the most satisfying thing in the world to spend 8 to 10 hours cooking something and this being the result. And the mesquite. Can we go 3 for 3? Number 1. I mean, that right there is excellent pulled pork. I feel like it's the applewood. Number 2. I think that's perhaps the hickory. The thing about pulled pork is there's so many different muscles and the fibers are so different that it's very, very difficult. And the other thing, these have been hit with smoke for such a long period of time that really all I'm tasting is bark as opposed to like the subtle nuances of the smoke flavor.
Nice excuse, right?
Number 3. Dude, it's a huge piece, Kyle. It does taste quite smoky, but like I said before, the nuances are just not there. Third one I am pretty confident is the mesquite.
You go 1 out of 3.
1 out of 3? Well, we did not go 3 for 3 here. Final takeaways. If you're cooking for long periods of time, at least in this experiment, the type of wood you use matters less. If you are cooking for shorter periods of time, there's massive differences between them. I will say, be careful with very heavy woods like the mesquite, because in my opinion, it can ruin the dish. And I'm proud to say that my beautiful old applewood, at least for me, reigns supreme. Thank you all so much for watching, and a big thank you to Maiden as well. Hope you guys learned something. We'll see you next time.